Attorney General Bondi, we are in a deeply alarming moment where law and order is being replaced by chaos and corruption and really whatever Trump wants. And your department's independence and its capacity to do its job have eroded before our eyes. We have seen respected career officials who've been fired for doing their job. Thousands more are being pushed out with your buyouts and the threat of mass firings, and entire divisions are being eliminated, and grants have been canceled illegally. So I have questions about how and why those decisions are being made, and importantly, whether you're adequately resourcing DOJ to do its job. But before I turn to my questions, I do want to raise my alarm about the troubling pattern of trampling basic rights. Detainees, including U.S. citizens, being shipped overseas without any due process. Elected officials are detained for conducting oversight, and a U.S. senator gets tackled to the ground for asking questions at a press conference. This is not the country I know or the values I believe in, and I hope that colleagues on both sides of the aisle will agree with that.
Today's hearing on Capitol Hill highlighted growing tensions over the Department of Justice's independence and funding decisions. Vice Chairman Senator Patty Murray confronted Attorney General Pam Bondi over allegations of chaos, politicization, and cuts to critical public safety programs, raising urgent questions about accountability at the DOJ. Subscribe for more in-depth breakdowns of major congressional hearings and political developments.
Now, to the questions. Yesterday, and I know that Senator Van Hollen raised this issue, a former DOJ attorney filed a protected whistleblower complaint accusing Deputy AG Emil Bove and senior DOJ leadership of defying court orders, including through, quote, lack of candor, deliberate delay, and disinformation, unquote. The complaint also accuses this administration of firing the whistleblower for, quote, telling the truth to the court. These allegations are deeply concerning. Now, I know you said that you can't discuss the case, but can you confirm that you agree that this administration should follow court orders?
We will follow court orders, Senator. The entire administration will follow court orders. The problem arises in the district courts. All these district courts throughout the country are tying our hands. And here's how we will follow them when we get to the United Supreme Court.
I need to ask a number of questions.
And so, yes, we're following the orders of the court.
Let me ask my questions. Can you confirm you will not allow any conduct like what is alleged to continue at the DOJ?
I'm not going to talk about anything that's alleged. What I will talk about with you, hold on, you asked me a question and I get to answer it. What you asked me, alleged conduct that's part of a pending whistleblower lawsuit that was filed on the eve prior to Emil Bove's hearing today.
I'm not asking
highly
about that
suspicious. Hold on, let me keep going.
Attorney
I would
General
run
Bondi,
through a wall
this
for
is my
Emil
time,
Bove
Mr. Chairman,
and Todd
I would like to
Blanche.
continue with my questions. I have very limited time. Thank you. I just want you to confirm for this you will not allow conduct like that at the DOJ. Yes or no?
I will always support and defend Emil Bove, and I will defend Todd Blanche. They are two of the finest people I know and two of the ethical people I know.
Let me keep going here. Now, in April, DOJ abruptly terminated over 300 public safety grants that had already gone through a very rigorous and fair and apolitical application process with no explanation. This is funding to investigate and prosecute drug trafficking, to support foster care kids who experienced abuse or neglect, to expand access to forensic exams to prosecute violent crimes like sexual assault. These really senseless cancellations have already forced public safety organizations to cut employees and services. So I want to ask you, when you cut off the community-based violence intervention and prevention initiative funding, were you aware it is used to prevent and reduce violent crime?
Yeah, Senator, you weren't here for that, so I'm going to have to repeat myself. We have cut grants. I think we've cut 6%. But if we have cut a grant that you feel should not be cut, please reach out to me. I will personally look at it. We've turned multiple grants back on. Okay. We have an appeal process. But if you want to come to me directly, I would be happy to sit down with you and look at that and help you.
I'm happy. I appreciate
Again, we're doing everything we can.
Okay, but let me just ask you, when you cut off the expanding access to sexual assault forensic examination grant, were you aware that that grant helps our authorities prosecute rape and sexual assault?
I have no idea about that specific grant you're talking about. That's why I said, if you want to come sit down with me, I would never cut a grant
I appreciate that.
intentionally
It's
that
very
has
hard
anything
for those
to do.
recipients on the other end across the country.
Can you
to
give me
get a
the
phone
details of
interview.
that grant?
I can absolutely do that, and my staff will get that to you, but those are two critical ones that I just wanted to ask you about today.
Again, we've turned many grants back on and will continue to. If you want to call me and we can discuss them with you.
Okay, in your budget request, you propose consolidating the Office on Violence Against Women into the Office of Justice Programs. In 2002, Congress actually codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office to implement the Violence Against Women Act. We did that to make sure that violent crimes against women receive the necessary attention, expertise, and resources, and to give the office a strong, independent voice within the Justice Department and federal government. Now your department wants to fade that into the OJP, which violates the intent of the law that we passed. It makes grant programs less effective, and it places a lot more barriers for victims and services they need. And I see that you're cutting the office's resources by about a third. So will you commit to us, the Appropriations Committee, to follow the law and maintain OVW as a separate grant entity?
I will follow the law, but I will not keep that as a separate grant entity. You and I can disagree all day long on what the law is.
Well,
that's being consolidated into the Office of Justice Programs.
so
I'm not going to cut, let me answer, I'm not going to cut anything that's going to hurt violence against
Not
women.
my question.
It will eliminate
I'm asking, just for your information, Attorney General, in 2002, we codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office. So that you need to go back and take a look at that. I know my time is out, but I thank you very much for the time.
Subscribe to stay updated as we follow the whistleblower lawsuit that is now at the center of this debate. A former DOJ attorney recently filed a protected whistleblower complaint accusing senior DOJ leaders, including Deputy AG ML Bouv, of defying court orders, deliberately delaying cases, spreading disinformation, and firing the whistleblower for telling the truth to the court. Murray pressed Bondi to confirm whether she would allow such conduct to continue. Bondi repeatedly refused to address specific allegations, citing the pending lawsuit, but publicly defended Bouv and other senior officials as two of the finest people I know. Subscribe for deeper analysis on what this whistleblower case could mean for DOJ credibility and upcoming hearings. Murray also challenged Bondi on the abrupt termination of more than 300 public safety grants. These grants had been awarded after rigorous, nonpartisan review and supported programs like combating drug trafficking, foster care support for abused children, sexual assault forensic examinations, and violence prevention in communities. Bondi admitted she was unaware of specific cuts, but offered to review cases individually and restore funding where possible. Subscribe for updates on whether these critical programs get their funding back and how communities are affected. Perhaps the sharpest policy clash came over the DOJ's plan to merge the Office on Violence Against Women, OVW, into the broader Office of Justice Programs. Congress made OVW independent in 2002 to ensure a dedicated focus on implementing the Violence Against Women Act, VAWA. Murray warned that merging OVW undermines congressional intent and reduces resources for victims. Bondi countered that the DOJ will follow the law but disagreed with Murray's interpretation and intends to proceed with consolidation. This sets up a likely legal and political fight over how federal programs for domestic violence and sexual assault survivors are structured and funded. Subscribe for continuing coverage as this clash over women's safety programs unfolds in future budget negotiations. This hearing underscores two urgent issues: DOJ independence, whether the Justice Department is being used as a political tool rather than an impartial law enforcement agency; public safety priorities, whether crucial grants for violence prevention and victim support are being undermined at a time when local communities are struggling with rising crime and limited resources. For viewers, the outcome of these disputes will directly impact federal support for public safety, oversight of government power, and protections for vulnerable populations. Subscribe for more unbiased breakdowns of high-stakes hearings and investigations shaping U.S. justice policy.